former host of the South Jersey Sports Report, Tyler Donohue, who's now working with Bleacher Report, and he's kind of a guru with high school football recruiting, so we're going to check in with him and see what's going on with the South Jersey scene and also the national scene. Welcome to the show, Tyler.
Hey, nice to be back on here, and congratulations. Nice to have you in the driver's seat.
Hey, I'm just keeping the seat warm, so hopefully I don't stumble too bad here.
No, I'm sure you're doing a great job. And I heard who your last guest was, and I got to give Joey Durso a little shout out. He's from my alma mater. We both wore the same uniform for a few years. I know he just graduated, so I wish him the best of luck in the Adam Telefero game. That's great stuff. Man,
you're plugging Middle Township every chance you get. Jeez, you're such a homer.
Hey, I'm out of that chair now, so I can really let that fly. Although many will tell you I did plenty of that when I was actually behind the mic. So yeah,
it's all good. It's all good. They got a nice athletic program down there. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing now. And I know you're big into this recruiting process. And what's your Twitter handle in case people want to follow you and stay up to date on the high school football recruiting?
Twitter handle is at TD's Take. It's the same as it was when I was at 97.3. Only difference now is, and as of yesterday, I got one of those fancy blue check marks, and hopefully my mom printed out a picture of it and put it on her fridge. So that's what's going on in these neck of the woods. I'm up in Princeton now, so
nice.
Not too far away, right in between New York and lovely Cape May County. And I'll be down there for 4th of July weekend playing Chubby.
Awesome. So give us a little bit of heads up on what's going on with some South Jersey recruits. I know Cedar Creek's Samir Mitchell is probably one of the top recruits here, not only in South Jersey but in the nation. Have you heard anything about new schools jumping on board trying to get him to come there, or any of these other guys? I know there's some great athletes over there in Timber Creek and Camden.
Yeah, Samir Mitchell's recruitment is really beginning to seem fluid. It really seems like we're going to get down to a decision very soon. If not a decision, then some kind of announcement of a top 2 or top 3 finalists from Amir. And, I take it back to when I was in the booth up at Rowan calling the 2012 South Jersey Championship game that surprisingly Cedar Creek made it to in just their first season as a varsity program. And, the story on that team was Duop Mitchell.
Right.
Damon Mitchell, the brother, the quarterback. He ended up going to Arkansas. But his go-to guy that game was a young freshman, a lot of size to him already. That young man, Amir Mitchell, has grown into one of the top, most coveted recruits that we have in the entire country. And you're talking about some of the best coaches, most revered coaches are after this kid nonstop. He just was up in Michigan this past week with a few other guys from the area. One of them, Ron Johnson from Camden High School, actually committed to the Wolverines shortly after that visit. Some people think Amir Mitchell could be the next guy to commit to Michigan. There was a time, certainly a period, from my conversations with Amir and some things I was hearing on the recruiting trail, that Ohio State seems to be in the driver's seat in the situation. And, obviously the defending national champions, he visited them as well. But right now I would have to say I like Michigan number 1 right now in this group. Notre Dame seems to be making a push. I think Rutgers is still fighting tooth and nail to get this kid to stay in his home state. They've had a little bit of trouble with some of these top guys heading elsewhere in the Big Ten. But if I had to put my money on it right now, I think he's going to end up in Ann Arbor as a Wolverine. But again, long way to go here. He could be one of the kids who decides to commit before his senior year, or we might not know all the way down to National Signing Day. His brother went the course of not making that final decision to go to Arkansas until right up down the wire. So he could follow in those footsteps, and we could be talking about his recruitment for quite some time here.
We're talking with Tyler Donohue from Bleacher Report, former host of the South Jersey Sports Report. He's got his finger on the pulse of South Jersey high school football recruiting as well as high school football recruiting throughout the nation. And we're talking a little bit about Cedar Creek stud Amir Mitchell, wide receiver, plays a little bit of Wildcat quarterback from time to time, just a fantastic athlete. You were talking about these guys narrowing down their selections to their top 3, top 4, whatever. How common is that for these guys to announce their top 3 or 4? Is that sort of a new phase of recruiting, a new fad that's kind of going around?
Oh, it is all the rage. I'm telling you, right now it's not just top 3 or top 4. You will see guys tweet out, hey, I'm ready to cut things down, start focusing on a few schools. Bam, bam, here's my top 15. And it'll be somebody who has 20 offers maybe. So it doesn't give you much of an inkling of where they're thinking. But in a lot of cases, it is a little more realistic as a top 5 and a top 3. Up the road just a little bit, Camden High School, Brad Hawkins, big-time wide receiver. There's a lot of great wide receivers in New Jersey this year. It's a really impressive group. He just cut down to a top 10 a few weeks ago. It gets into a little bit of a silly situation sometimes where you guys squeeze these top 10, top 15 groups, and you say, wait, they don't have offers from about 4 of these schools, so is this a wish list or a list of finalists? So that's when you have to be careful as a reporter, do a little bit of homework, and make sure you're not writing a story about a kid eliminating certain schools and putting other schools in the mix who actually aren't really showing that interest. But it used to be, pretty standard where before social media, before this crazy world of Twitter and Instagram and Facebook that gets utilized so heavily now by people of all ages, especially this younger group of teenagers in high school, it used to be you make your decision, you might put 3 or 4 hats on a table in front of you and snag one of them. And now you can really, they let you into the process. They'll come up with a top 10, a top 15, or whatever. And then there's always a caveat, too. Usually it's not in order. And the other thing is this list could change. So, they're having fun with it. I can't fault it. I know it drives some people mad. But it's a good way to, 1, troll some fan bases if you want, mess around with some fan bases, and 2, you're going to gain a lot of Twitter followers because people want to send you messages, talk about how great their university is, what they can do for you at their university, what you can do for them. So actually,
students at the colleges are kind of working sort of off the books for some of these football programs, trying to convince these kids to come. Is that what you're saying?
Students, but I think usually it might be. And no offense to people who do this, I think a lot of times it's a 40-year-old man who lives in his mom's basement and has Tennessee Volunteers posters all over the place.
Yeah, real diehard fans, right?
Yeah, it's just some people who quote unquote have a little too much time on their hands, and sometimes it turns ugly, unfortunately, and you'll see, especially if the kid commits, you'll see him get flamed by a certain fan base, and it's just ridiculous to kill a kid for 17-year-old young man deciding he wants to go to college. But typically it's good stuff, and it's positive stuff. And if the young man wants to shut that down, he is always more than welcome to step away from his Twitter or deactivate his Twitter. But for any of us who've tried to kind of disengage from social media, it's tough to stay away for too long. That's just the way our culture is right now.
To that end, with these high school athletes, some of whom may be listening, how important is it to really check yourself when you're on social media? You see stories all the time. There was a kid, a college player out in California who basically got kicked off the baseball team for a racially insensitive video that surfaced. How careful do these high school athletes have to be when they're engaging in social media?
Incredibly careful. I don't want young high school athletes out there who might be listening to think that they've always got Big Brother looking over their shoulders and they can't have a little bit of fun with it, and even mess around a little bit. But you got to be careful whether you're engaged in some kind of Twitter battle with somebody. Don't take it to the next level where you're threatening somebody. Don't take it to the next level where you're dropping profanity, especially the kind that could be interpreted as racially or culturally insensitive to somebody. And I'll be honest with you, I've heard it not just college students, but high school students who, they get follows from a lot of these different assistant coaches and head coaches from different universities, and it's used as if you're a certain age, if you get to a certain point, there's an open line of communication that opens up in the recruitment process where you can message each other back and forth, and that's legal under the eyes of the NCAA. But it also gives an opportunity where what you're putting out there, it's an open book to these coaches. So if they see you're someone totally different than who they've met in person and the guy that they're getting a chance to meet when he's around his parents on a visit, and you're out there flying solo in the Twitter world and you're saying bad things about women or you're saying derogatory things about your school, it could be a variety of stuff, but just don't go crazy on Twitter. Send some things in text if you need to. And maybe just reread through what you're going to write. Give yourself 5 seconds, before you push that send button, because what's it on the internet? You can delete it, but if you're a big-time recruit, by the time you delete it, there's probably going to be a screenshot of it. It happens with reporters. It's good advice for anyone who's in the public domain and has some eyes on them, but especially if you're a young kid who hasn't even signed that letter of intent yet. You could have 45 scholarship offers, and you could lose all those opportunities with one big-time mistake.
Like Herm Edwards says, don't hit send.
Yeah, exactly.
How much has recruiting changed, even just the last year, 2 year, 3 years, in terms of these coaches and how they interact with players? Like you said, it's a whole different world with these 17 and 18-year-olds with the social media and everything. What's been the biggest change you've seen over the last, say, 3 or 4 years in terms of how the recruiting process works?
Yeah, well, the NCAA, not known as the most flexible organization in the country. Certainly, what they allow and what they don't allow. There's a lot of ways that your university can get in trouble. There's a lot of ways that recruits can overstep some tape they're not supposed to. But right now, they've kind of opened the door. They've embraced a little bit of social media. So, these coaches, once you get to the point where you are in your junior year, you can't do too much interaction with sophomores and freshmen unless they're actually on your campus or unless you're talking to them through their coaches. But once they hit that upperclassman status, you can really communicate with them on Twitter, on Facebook. You can exchange stuff like that. There's a limited number of phone calls you can make. There's a limited number of personal contact that you can make. And I think that's a big deal, the social media thing. But another thing, and if you follow college football out there, you're aware that Jim Harbaugh, stepping on toes as usual, that's why I love having him in college football. He riles people up. He's having a lot of satellite camps. Now, these things have gone on for a long time, but he had 8 or 9 different states where he was basically a guest coach at other smaller universities' camps.
Right.
So that's going to draw a lot of players that otherwise he wouldn't be able to really have contact with. And he ruffled some feathers, but I think most people are in favor of having these satellite camps because anyone can do it. The one conference that's really against this is the SEC. And right now they dominate the college football world when it comes to recruiting, so it's not too surprising they would kind of want to maintain some status quo.
Right.
But I would say that's a big difference. These satellite camps that are popping up, you'll see kind of coaches collaborating and exposing them to different regions. So that, and then the last thing you'll hit on is the total conference realignment we saw just a few years ago, David, when we saw Texas A&M jump into the SEC,
right.
Rutgers and Maryland jump into the Big Ten. That opens the door for other programs within that conference to expand their borders. We're seeing Michigan hit New Jersey really hard. I mentioned Ron Johnson from Camden going there. Samir Mitchell could end up there. They might get the top player in the country, Rashawn Gary from New Jersey. Ohio State hitting New Jersey hard as well. The Maryland, the DMV area down there, that's now Big Ten territory. And I think it's really interesting to see Alabama going into Texas. They've already got 3 4-star commitments from the state of Texas this cycle. That's actually more than the Texas Longhorns have in their own state.
Real quick, Tyler, we got about a minute left. Yeah. I wanted to get your quick take on Rutgers and Penn State, which are very big fan bases around South Jersey. What's their recruiting looking like for next season?
Strong. Penn State just jumped back into the top 10 overall national rankings. I think they're going to dip a little bit when some teams catch up, but there'll be a top 15 class to get for James Franklin. I really like what they've been able to do. One guy I'll mention in the class, Miles Sanders, a running back from the Pittsburgh area. Had a chance to watch him in person at a campus event in Ohio State in May. Kid's the real deal. Could be a stud running back. And meanwhile, for Rutgers, they're catching fire. They have 11 commitments in the month of June alone.
Wow.
They've jumped into the top 35 right now. And I really like their quarterback, Anthony Russo. They missed on their top 2 quarterback targets earlier in the class. He was the fallback option. I'm going to get a chance to see him up close and personal at the national esteemed Elite 11 finals out in Oregon just a couple weeks from now. So I'll have a better read on what Anthony Russo is all about, what he brings to the Scarlet Knights. But really impressive. And the Big Ten overall, they have 11 teams in the top 35 recruiting rankings right now nationally. So it's a huge year for that conference and one that they needed.
All right, good stuff, Tyler. Thanks, appreciate it. And we'll stay up to date with you throughout the summer.
Hey, sounds great, and best of luck to you and all of South Jersey. I hope everyone's doing well and enjoying this summer that's underway now.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it, Tyler.
Yep, take care.
That was Tyler Donohue, former host of South Jersey Sports Report. Now works for Bleacher Report. He's all over high school football recruiting, so great to catch up with him.